guys, we're off to a great start. My battery just died before I finished filming everything, so let's get back into it. I'm Caroline. As you probably may know, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a very much anticipated review. I am a really big A Court of Thorns and Roses fan, and there will be spoilers in this review, and I'm really sorry in advance that there are spoilers. But let's dive right in. So, I have my copy of A Court of Thorns and Roses. She's thick. She's very thick. She's nearly 770 pages, which I'm not entirely complaining about. I, don't mind the fact that it's a bigger book because we have to wait so long between books. So the bigger the book, the more reading, which is fantastic. And it also just takes longer to get through, which is just great. But anyway, so A Court of Silver Flames. I have been dying for this book for like 10 months. No joke. So when I first started reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, let me just actually adjust this because it's like really high. Okay, we're kind of crooked, aren't we? There we go. So when I started reading, like my first introduction into Sarah J. Maas was through A Court of Thorns and Roses, and then I kind of from there read the rest of the series and I loved it. Actually no, I lied. My first introduction to Sarah J. Maas was from Crescent City, and then I went on to read A Court of Thorns and Roses and that series, and then I went on to read Throne of Glass, which I did not like. And so that was basically the progression. So then I was like super excited for the A Court of Silver Flames, because at the end of A Court of Wings and Ruin, it was almost like it was ended, but there was still so much that could be explored. And so then she kind of released information about the next book in the series, which it doesn't follow Feyre and Rysand. This follows Nesta and Cassian. So it's kind of, I have to be honest, one of the first books I've read that as the series progresses, it changes to different POVs, which I'm not entirely hating. Like, I like it. I suppose because all of her characters in A Court of Thorns and Roses were just eclectic. They were just amazing. And so that's why readers were easily able to transition from one person to another, because, it was just really something that you were like, I want to know what happens to this character now. So there's a lot to talk about when it comes to this book. Like, there really is. There was a lot that went into this book. Sarah J. Maas said, this book was quite an emotional ride for her. It was quite an emotional journey for her as well. She was going through some pretty low points in her life, and that kind of helped her to write this book. And she even writes about it in her author's note and everything within the book. So she really just kind of makes it clear that this book is a pretty special book to her. So yeah, let's go on to talking about what this book's about, and then I'll let you know the things I did like and the things I didn't like. So basically, it follows Nesta, and so when we saw her last, she was kind of in a really miserable headspace. She was kind of finding solace in drugs and alcohol and men, and just, all around not really having a good time. And so basically Feyre just decides enough is enough, and so she sends her to the House of Wind, and Cassian will be training her. She'll learn to be trained like an Illyrian warrior. And so then Nesta, being the closed-minded person, well, not closed-minded, that's probably a bad word, but Nesta was a very prideful character, and being taken to the Illyrian war camps was not really something that she was going to appreciate or adapt to. And so she basically did nothing. She didn't learn, she didn't do anything. But she met Emery, and that Emery then became a friend. And Emery had her own kind of really sad story. And then in the morning she would train, and then in the afternoon she'd work in the library with all of the other, I don't know what I just know that their names. I don't know what they're like called. The people, they have like Gwen. Basically her name is like with Clotho and Gwen. They're like the mistresses of the temple. I don't remember their actual name, and their name is like pretty hard to pronounce. But anyway, so she meets Gwen, and Gwen kind of puts her in her place. Like Gwen, like, you know, she's like to Gwen, oh, you know, like you wouldn't understand. And Gwen was like, everyone here has a sad story, and it's just a matter of moving on and just doing the best you can with what has happened to you. And so I loved that. I thought that was brilliant. And so then as the book progresses, Nesta continues to train and get stronger, and she learns more into the library, and then they learn more about her powers, because when the book finished, the other series finished, and Nesta was thrown into the cauldron, they didn't know what power she had. And so in the meantime, there's the Princess Braylon, which is one of the princesses that was tasked with looking after the book. She was mounting an attack against everyone who's a Fae, because, and most importantly, against the inner circle, because she was turned into an old lady, which is not what she wanted, because she was the vain one who wanted to stay young forever. And so there was 3 artifacts that they needed to find, and then it was kind of the journey on how they found those artifacts, and then there was kind of a lot of, you know, a relationship growth between Cassian and Nesta, and then basically like the book like ended with them being together. They collected all 3 artifacts and blah. So I'll explain to you like what I loved about this book. I loved Nesta's growth. I loved Cassian and Nesta. I think they had such witty banter that it was just sizzling. I loved, oh my god. So Sarah J. Maas is probably my new favorite writer of sex scenes. Wow. I am so glad she is no longer going to be writing YA, because those scenes were amazing. Yeah, like pure genius. Like the way she did it all. I understand some of them were a bit like, really? But it's fantasy, it's fiction, it's not really like, it's like properly referenced that you're like, oh, well, you know, that does not happen in real life. Like, there's no Illyrian warriors in real life, so like she can basically make anything happen, and you just go, okay, cool, I believe it. Yeah, the continued world building of hers was amazing. This book for YA, I would say 16 and above, just because of the scenes that are in this, some of the experiences that happen, a lot of the issues, they're kind of more geared towards older audiences. But yeah, the continued world building was amazing. I mean, when they went to the Borg of Unong, the Borg, or the Boge, I don't know, I say Borg, but people might say Boge. That was just, wow. Like, she just weaved this like magical world of just desolate nothingness, and yeah, just, I can't stop saying wow, like it was so good. And then we get to the relationship that Nesta kind of developed. So prior to all this, Nesta was a really cold person, a really icy person that didn't really have love in her heart for her sisters even. Very abrupt. She was more, favoritizing Elaine, things like that. I loved the growth that Feyre and Nesta went through. I thought that was really, really good. And I really loved just the friendship element in this book, and how Sarah J. Maas made this book more about broken women healing each other, as opposed to broken women needing a man to heal them. I really loved that. I thought that was such a poignant point to raise amongst younger readers, that it's a matter of sharing your story with others that helps you bring all of you closer. And it really shows as well that everyone has their own journeys and everyone has their own backstories, and by sharing them and supporting each other, it makes you stronger for it. So I really loved that element. And Nesta and Cassian's point of view was amazing. Like, I really have enjoyed this book. Now, the things I didn't enjoy. I know by my expression I'm making it sound like there's a lot I didn't enjoy. And it's not that there was a lot I didn't enjoy, it was that what I didn't enjoy, I really didn't enjoy. So Rysand has been like a book boyfriend of mine ever since I picked up A Court of Thorns and Roses. He was just this magical male character that was just so strong and just perfect in every sense of the word. And then you come into this book and you just go, what the hell? And I get it completely that this is coming from Nesta's point of view, and him and Nesta kind of had a difficult relationship before, but he was just an ass. And I mean that, like, really, like, to the point where I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I ever liked you. And I mean, he was even mean to Cassian, and he was mean to Azriel. And it was just like, I don't understand. Just in all your other books, your point of view has been, these are my brothers, these are people I would die for, these are people that I die by, and now all of a sudden you're like, get that bitch away from me. Like, what the fuck? And Amren, like, where did this person come from? Because this is not Amren. Amren was like, Rysand, we have all of these magical artifacts, and Nesta has the power to create more magical artifacts. Let's become High King of like all of Corinthia. And it was like, what the hell? Since when has Rysand ever been interested in world domination? His only ever goal has been to keep Valaris a secret, so no one knows what goes on behind the walls, and to keep his family, the inner circle, alive. So I'm just so freaking confused now why like Amren would even bring up such a stupid point. Like, it was just weird. Like, it missed the mark so much. And it just, again, I get it was all from Nesta's point of view, but like, why to Cassian? Like, why? Because you would think to Nesta, okay, you're like that, but why are you like that to Cassian as well? It just made no sense. These are pretty big gripes of mine, like pretty big, because I think Rysand was such an integral part in the other series. Like, I just don't understand why you would dump on his character like this. The next point I felt was that I get this book was about a lot of growth, and I get this book was also about a hard time, and written about, kind of showing mental health and how to get through things. But I feel like Nesta's story wasn't as nearly as traumatic as Emery and Gwen's. And I felt like it was almost like we were, made to feel empathy towards Nesta when she didn't really deserve it, if that kind of makes sense. So Nesta, before she went in the cauldron, was that person. She didn't change personality-wise before she went into the cauldron. The whole, no one knows what happened to her in the cauldron kind of thing, which I get as well. But then, I feel like in the cauldron, nothing happened to her. When Sarah J. Maas explained what was happening to her in the cauldron, I was like, Nothing. She stole a bit of the cauldron. That was it. It wasn't like, you know, she was nearly killed or whatever. Like, she went in there kicking and screaming, battling, and then she came out. And, you know, obviously when the battle happened and her father was killed in front of her, she used that as, you know, she was having post-traumatic stress over that, which I can understand. But at the same time, I also feel like that just wasn't, even like throughout the other series, it wasn't like that was the most, I'd say, horrible experience that any of the characters had been through. Feyre had been through a lot worse, and she didn't have those kinds of post-traumatic stress. And then the other thing that Nesta put down to as to why she is the way she is because her mother favoritized her over her two sisters and took her to dancing and told her that she was never the pretty one, but she was the one that would dominate the world. So like I said, like I'm struggling to understand like why this book was portrayed as like this is someone that's been through hardship, because I feel like yes, she's been through hardship, but if you listen to her friends' stories, their hardship like way supersedes Nesta. And to say that because of those things in Nesta's life, they were the reason why she is the way she is, I feel like was kind of a cop-out in a way. So for example, like Emery had her wings cut because she was in Illyria, in a war camp, and unfortunately a lot of people in those war camps are pretty backwards and they don't want women to fly, so they cut their wings even though it's been outlawed. And so she's had her wings cut, and her dad had a really successful store, which he died in the war, so she takes over the store, and her dad's family, now they come and they you know, threaten her and try to take this store off her. So that's quite, you know, a significant thing. The fact that she had her wings cut by her dad and they were cut wrong, and she lives in constant pain and arthritis sets in and those kinds of things. Like, I feel like those were really sad. She has no family, basically. She can't fly. She's in constant pain. Like, that was really, really sad. And then you have Gwen's story, and Gwen was in the temple when Highburn soldiers attacked it because there was a piece of the cauldron in that temple. And so she had a twin sister. And so to protect all the young girls, she hid them in a vent and threw a table over the entrance, and that's when Highburn soldiers walked in and they demanded to know where the little girls were, and she wouldn't tell them. So they grabbed her twin sister and killed her in front of Gwen. And then they proceeded to gang rape Gwen. Those were really heavy stories. Like, they were really, really heavy stories. And I just feel like in comparison, Nesta's wasn't that heavy. You get what I'm trying to say? So just, like, I struggled to find empathy for Nesta. I struggled to find empathy for her. I struggled to communicate with her plight because I was like, you kind of sound like a spoiled brat. Like, I get you've been through hardship, but everyone has been through hardship from the war. Everyone, you know what I mean? Like, it just, yeah. So there was that. The other thing, I was like, what the hell? So Feyre is pregnant in this book, which was like, yay, Feyre's finally pregnant. And then it turns out the baby has wings, which poses a problem because Feyre doesn't have the anatomy to have a baby with wings. But she had the anatomy to consummate a baby with wings. So I was confused this whole time. And then as Feyre is delivering the baby, she basically dies. So my point was this. 1, Feyre is the most integral character in this whole series. Why would you even bring her close to death? Like, it just made no sense. 2, in order for Feyre to live, Nesta basically made a deal with the cauldron to give back all of her powers as long as Feyre could have her life back, and then she changed her anatomy as well so she can have a baby with wings. So, I just don't even understand, like, why did Sarah J. Maas do this? Like, you had this strong female character who had the power of a cauldron, who could do anything the cauldron could do, and you get her to give it back so she can get female Illyrian anatomy? What the hell? Like, why? It was just so frustrating, that part. And I just feel like if Feyre can shapeshift when she was pregnant, like when she was conceiving, she was shapeshifted. Like, why couldn't she shapeshift to give birth? Like, I just didn't understand that. And why couldn't you just make it that, like, the cauldron had another sinister plan, and instead of getting Nesta to give her power back, like, you know, the cauldron was like, no, keep it, I'll give you this as a favor, and then, like, you know, mind controls her later on. Like, I was just really, really disappointed that Nesta lost her powers. Because I was like, you know what, if Nesta loses her powers, then when they come up against evil, they're just gonna lose. Yeah, but like that was a big thing for me, that I really, just as a female, as a young female, as, you know, someone who wants to read about badass females, that was just like such a disappointment. And that was probably the most shattering thing that happened to me throughout the whole book. And like, why would you even bring Feyre even close to death? Like, that just, I was like, what the hell? What the hell? But yeah, that was basically, those were my gripes, and that was my overall kind of feel of this. I still really love this book. I still put it down. When I finished reading it, I still said to myself, I need to start reading it again. I still read it in 12 hours straight. Yeah. Sarah J. Maas is amazing at writing. Like, she really truly is gifted, and her world building, just even the way she constructs her sentences, you know, the way she uses perhaps bigger words, but they just fit seamlessly. Or she'll use different words, but they have the same meaning, but it's just the way she uses them. It's just amazing. Honestly, loved this book. As I said, I have some gripes, mainly about how she portrayed Rysand, but, you know, anyway, I still give this 5 stars completely. I'm sorry to all those that I've ruined with my spoilers, but yeah, I would highly recommend reading this book. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day.